So this is Matthew chapter 8, the scripture for August 4th. Jesus is so good at practicing his own preaching. While he could have simply taught the crowds and called it a day and then gone home, offered them great teaching, great sermons, and then said peace, instead, he's not satisfied with holding them at an arm's length. His first two healings in this chapter, in fact, are people who other Jews would normally have held at an arm's length. There's a leper and a Gentile. But what Jesus does is he takes these people who are classically outsiders for the Jewish faith and touches them, invites them in. First, he heals a leper, someone with a contagious skin disease, who would be required to quarantine from the community until a priest declared him cleansed of the skin disease. But Jesus reaches out and touches him. Such an act should have, according to the Levitical law, it should have made Jesus ritually unclean. But Jesus' holiness and purity in some profound way overwrote that uncleanliness, making the leper clean instead of taking the leper's uncleanness and imputing it to Jesus. Now, after preaching the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus goes and then returns to his headquarters at Capernaum. And it's on the way that he meets a centurion, a Roman official, and therefore not only a member of the hateful conquerors of God's chosen people, but also a Gentile. This centurion begs with Jesus on behalf of his servant or child, depending on which translation you have. The Greek word there's a little ambiguous. And interestingly, the centurion seems to want to help Jesus keep kosher. Kosher laws, of course, have to do with not eating bacon and not mixing meat and cheese, but they also have to do with whose houses you can step into and who you can eat with. And to go into the house of a Gentile may have made Jesus unclean. And so he says, you're somebody with people who are under your authority. I know what that's like. If you command this disease to leave, the disease will leave. He has a deep faith in Jesus' ability to control disease and a deep faith and trust in Jesus' kindness. In response, Jesus heals and then shares not only with him, but with everybody gathered that Gentiles will sup at table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it'll be many of the chosen people, the Israelites, who will be on the outside looking in. That the table of welcome that God extends is extended not only to those who are biological descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but those who believe in the God of Scripture and who do as he says. This is a stunning claim. Not satisfied with this, Jesus also heals Peter's mother-in-law and casts out demons, leading Matthew to quote a portion of Isaiah 53, a chapter of Isaiah beloved by the early church and by Christians today for how clearly it lays out what Jesus set out to do. Peter's mother-in-law immediately gets up to serve the disciples, which is a stark contrast to the would-be disciples in verses 19 through 22, who find excuses not to follow Jesus immediately. The man who says that he needs to bury his father probably isn't dead. If his father were dead, the man would have already buried him according to Jewish custom. No, his father is likely getting on in years, and the man wants to be there with his father when he dies, which laudable. But that means that you can't take a rain check here. Either you're going to follow Jesus, and that's going to inform how you care for the family and friends around you, or you're not. And that guy was making an excuse why he couldn't follow Jesus in the here and now. Jesus then, later on in the chapter, demonstrates his sovereignty over nature by calming the storm, restoring the creative order from the chaos the disciples were experiencing on the Sea of Galilee. And then he directs demons to leave two known demoniacs near the Decapolis, the 10 cities, which were a Gentilic area. And he drives these demons to enter into a herd of pigs. And this is funny for the Jews who were reading the story because pigs were unclean, but it also says something very clear about God's character and something important for us as we discern how we need to respond to this pandemic in the here and now. And it says that human flourishing to God is of greater worth than human property. That means that while the economy is important and people's livelihoods, yes, they're important, they don't take priority over human lives. And if we have to choose between prosperity, and life, we have to choose life every time. That's why Jesus commands these demons to leave those made in God's image and go into pigs, because pigs are replaceable. Human beings are not. And Jesus cares for people in need more than the excess stuff that people have. Even though he probably really irritated the herdsmen, the swineherds there, Jesus, it doesn't so much matter to him because the demoniacs are free to live their lives. I wonder, how has Jesus healed you, whether in body or in soul? That's all for Matthew 8. Tomorrow, the 5th of August, we'll be looking at Matthew chapter 9. May God bless you in your reading of Scripture.